That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Commissioner Cooper, and we are in week 14. It is time to hit that waiver wire. We got a lot to discuss and a lot of injuries to go over, leaders to talk about, sophisticated pickups, and we got Doc in the house. Like I said, injuries to go over, especially a huge one last night. Let's get it on. It's time for TSS Fantasy.
It's time for TSS Fantasy. Fantasy. It's time for TSS Fantasy. Fantasy. It's time for TSS Fantasy.
You know, the great thing about being a football player is you don't have to take a shower to go to work.
There it is.
Indeed. Speaking of not showering, let's welcome into the studio Justin Jesus Herrera.
Yeah, it might look scraggly, but I have taken a shower since my celebration this week. But first off, I would like to send out a personal message to all Philadelphia fans. Cry, Eagles, cry, my friend, as you have now experienced what it feels like to be on the other end of that beatdown. But you still got your quarterback, so just remember that. Might not be next time, though.
Ooh, little trash talk afterwards. Like, you just still feeling it. I mean, big game, and you guys showed up, bro. Not for nothing. Well, I mean, we'll get into everything in a little bit. Busy weekend, obviously, to go over. Well, let's pay the bills first. Go to tssfantasy.com. Our rankings will be up soon here for week 14, so make sure you check that out. Crucial week for some. Some are going into playoffs. Some are in the final week of their regular season. So an exciting week nonetheless. Also, don't forget Underdog Fantasy, promo code TSS. Lots of great promos there. Same at Jazz Sportsbook as well. So make sure you check that out. And if you're looking for championship bling for that fantasy champion, look no further than Pro Am Belts. All right. Well, we got leaders to go over. We got all this other good stuff. But, man, we had a game last night. What about last night, indeed, and some injuries to talk about. So, of course, let's pay. Well, excuse me, I can't pay his bill. So let's get him in. Doc. The doctor is in, and the summer tour is long ago, but man, we are knee deep at the other end of it now, my friend. Welcome into the studio.
Hey, thank you much. This will be a busy segment tonight. So a couple of high ankle sprains to talk about. We'll start with Kenny Pickett. So he re-aggravated his high ankle sprain this weekend and underwent a tightrope procedure on his right ankle. So the tightrope procedure is where they stabilize the far distal end of the lower leg, put a little suture there so it still has a little bit of mobility. A relatively new procedure, but we've talked about it a few times in the segment. Interestingly, he's not being placed on the IR. So his return is not on that timeline, but rather when he's ready. We don't know when he's going to be available, but you can count on him not being available this Thursday. So pick it down with surgery. Moving on to Derrick Henry. So it was initially reported that he was being placed in concussion protocol after a hard hit in the fourth quarter. But the more recent reporting is that he is not in the protocol. He worked out Monday without limitation, and Derrick Henry is expected to be good for week number 14. This next one got me. I just picked up Tank Dell going into the weekend, and he scored 0 points for me. Sustained a fractured left fibula, so lower leg bone on the outside, and he had it surgically repaired on Monday. So he's done for the season. He's got a 2-month recovery ahead. So for fantasy purposes, Tank Dell is done. big mistake on my end, and I lost by 8 points this weekend, so that was a difference maker for me.
Oh, nothing worse.
Ramondre Stevenson. So another high ankle sprain sustained this past weekend. Patriots have a short week, so he's out for Thursday. And, due to the nature of the high ankle, I expect him to miss multiple weeks, not just Thursday. So this could be a meaningful injury as his season starts to wind down a little bit. Brian Robinson exited this past weekend with a hamstring injury, but good news for the Commanders. They have a Week 14 bye, so we'll check back in on him next week. Still too soon to speculate. Speaking of hamstrings, Christian Watson. So he's dealing with a hamstring issue. And I said issue. I'm not calling it an injury yet. Not a whole lot of details have been released. He could still be good for Week 14. Too soon to speculate. Check in with Brian later in the week. DeAndre Swift, so had an undisclosed injury late in the game after a big hit. There's really no update at this point, but I expect that no news is good news in that arena. Stay tuned later in the week, but I'm not expecting to hear anything meaningful if we haven't already. Here's one, Puka Nacua. So had an AC joint sprain, but did return during Week 13 after that and is expected to play in Week 14. So the AC, or acromioclavicular joint, connects the clavicular collarbone to the scapular shoulder blade. And increased movement there can be really problematic. So a sprain, even if it's just a grade 1 sprain, very painful. Once we get to that grade 2, there's a little bit extra movement. But it can be really problematic for shoulder stability and overall function. As a receiver, if you can't raise your arm up and feel stable, that's really problematic. And remember, it was the AC separation that ended Anthony Richardson's season. So it appears to be mild. Again, Puka came back in the game, but something to certainly watch out for. May impact his productivity a little bit. Mari Cooper, not much to report. He's in concussion protocol. Christian Kirk sustained a right groin or core injury, depending on the source. He's expected to need surgery, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. But essentially, it ends his fantasy season. And then lastly, Trevor Lawrence. So not even 24 hours ago, sustained a right high ankle sprain. Clearly a lot of pain for him. He's still listed as questionable for this weekend, but I'm going to go on the record and say it's incredibly unlikely Trevor Lawrence plays this weekend. Maybe even the next couple of weeks past that.
Yeah, the way he fell seemed pretty awkward. Even the defensive lineman for the I forget his names escaped me, for the Bengals. He even looked like he was upset. Probably because he hearing Trevor probably was screaming in pain, and probably thought something really devastating happened, unfortunately. So, but good news for him. It's nothing too crazy, and their season isn't exactly over yet, so to speak. So, one thing I did want to ask, let me just follow with this. You said you lost by 8 points. How about we had a guy that it was a matter of him getting into the playoffs, and he's in a game and he had Christian Kirk and Trevor Lawrence and ends up losing by, I forget, like 6 or 7 points. You talk about, man, the stroke of luck, just be like, nah, it's not happening for you tonight. So the one thing I wanted to ask though was on Brian Robinson. Did you, when you looked him up, are they looking at getting him an MRI, or did they do an MRI? Is it not to that bad of a grade that they're even talking MRI, or did we even get to that at all?
I don't have a note on this, but if I recall correctly, it was the plan to do one, but as of this afternoon, it had not been done. Again, I'm going from memory there, and I could be wrong, but I think we may have results on that later in the week.
All good. The reason I'm bringing that up, this is waiver wire night. So those out there that are looking for a guy to stash, or at this point, I don't maybe need a running back, but just somebody to stash. I don't want my opponent having Antonio Gibson. I don't know their schedule off the top of my head, but say they're playing the Giants or somebody not very good against the run. I don't want Antonio Gibson going against me. I may just pick him up just to make sure he doesn't. So make sure you guys check in with that. I would just make Antonio Gibson an option, quite frankly. But Doc, thank you so much for checking in. Always appreciate you. We will see you next week.
You guys.
All right, brother. We're going to get to our weekly leaders when I scroll my fat fingers up there. Here we go. I didn't want to interrupt Doc while he was talking. David had a funny comment. He said Justin's still like he's hungover from the San Fran party after stomping on Philly. See? See, I'm not the only one that recognized you didn't shower. Oh, you got it, the mute button. Okay.
He never said I didn't shower. He just said that I look hungover. He looked like he understands the face of a man who's been partying since Sunday. He understands that. I still got a job, Jason. I still got a shower.
Wait, you work? Oh, I thought you just talked to this thing. We get paid? No, I guess not. All right, let's go to weekly leaders. This past week, all right, can't forget about Geno Smith's performance on Thursday, way back when, 31 points. Brock Purdy, 29.5 points. Ooh-wee. Dak Prescott again over on Thursday, 28.3. Jake Browning, wow, 25.7. Welcome to the top 5 of the QB fantasy list. And if anybody had that, please let me know. I want to follow you from all time. Trevor Lawrence ended up hurt, was 5th in the list, 25.1. That was a hell of a game last night. By the way, anyway, even by the way, Joe Mixon, I just want to give him a quick shout out. I was already whooping somebody's butt. It was nice to put that little icing on a cake, though, on it on Monday night. Good stuff, my friend. All right, talk about somebody here on the QB list.
Oh, I mean, it's got to be Jake Browning. I mean, nobody saw that one coming. His previous game was like 212 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Like, how do you turn that around and you go in against a Jags team that's kind of riding a little bit hot since they got their ass whooped by the 49ers, and then saying, shit, I'm going to go 354, a touchdown. I think he had a rushing touchdown as well. Dude was just all over the place. Good on you, Jake Browning. And good on Cincinnati, man. You're back in a race. You're back in a wild card. You gotta feel good about yourself after that performance. You know, he's not Joe Burrow, but hell, he might be the next Matt Schaub, and he might cash in on a contract and be a starting quarterback somewhere.
Listen, as you watched that game progress last night, it just became more and more evident, like, ooh, like this guy's got a little groove to him, got a nice little rhythm. And now you're thinking in the aspect of, hey, wait a minute, these guys got a lot of good weapons. So if there's someone serviceable back there, like you mentioned, Cincinnati is back in this playoff race where you thought the season was just basically over. And poor David's been crying since Sunday, since his Steelers got beat by the Cardinals. Wow, that was amazing.
Hey, you know what? The Cardinals are a weird team, man. They got their ass kicked by the Rams. They beat the Texans, and they beat Pittsburgh. Come on now. Who would have pictured that one? The Texans have been hot. Pittsburgh's been a playoff team. That Cardinals, man, they even scare me a little bit because I'm just like, that could be that odd week where you just have something weird happen in the ether.
Yeah, they are that. They, again, they're not that team you want to face. They're not what their record indicates at all. The guy I want to shout out is Brock Purdy. I gotta say, you know what? I was always denying, like, nah, bro. Buddy came to play. Now the Eagles secondary is not very good, still, like, mind you. But Brock Purdy, like, I'm gonna say it because we talked about, I've heard other people say it, and I just wasn't quite there yet. But I'm almost there. Very, very. I mean, he's still very young, but very Tom Brady like, bro. Very, very Tom Brady like in so many ways. Got this offense on lock at such a young age, and really just exciting to see for Brock Purdy. So I was excited to see his performance. Of course, not that exciting.
That's actually a weird topic for a lot of people. A lot of people just think you have to be like a seasoned vet, and they treat him like a seasoned vet. He's only in the second year of his career. You know,
Exactly.
Jalen Hurts did not throw for 30 touchdowns in the second year of his career. Pat Mahomes did, but that's Pat Mahomes. We're not holding him to that standard. You know, Brock Purdy's still got a lot of years to grow, and the dude is just constantly freaking learning and evolving and not making the same fucking mistakes. Gotta love it. And man, I'm on a new high with that guy. I think I told you, every time Jimmy Garoppolo touched the ball, I was afraid there was going to be an interception. Every time Brock Purdy touches the ball, I am so excited there's going to be a touchdown.
You mentioned earlier this year that, and I gotta say, I mean, Brock Purdy, like you said, very much cerebral. It would be a good word for him. That kind of QB. So yeah, very impressed with Brock. All right, running backs. I just mentioned it. Joe Mixon, 29.7. Alvin Kamara, 28.9. Achan is back again, 25.3. Derrick Henry with 25. James Conner, 22.5. And I had to mention Chuba Hubbard is 22.4. Not so they're just one fraction of a point. And right below Chuba Hubbard is Christian McCaffrey, 22.3. So some great running backs this week. Anyone you'd like to point out, my friend?
Well, there's so many good ones, and you could go with a Chain who just came back. You can go with Chuba who had a surprise. I'm gonna go with Mixon because Mixon has been sneakily been the most consistent running back of the past 3 weeks, and before that he was just hot trash, hot garbage. He was a high pick that you spent, and guess what? He was producing at the level that he produced for the previous seasons. Not good. But he is really coming alive with Joe Burrow gone. And it's starting to be like, oh, hey, you got Joe Mixon. You might be okay for the playoffs. Ooh, that might be a big meal ticket right there. I like what he did. I think he had 2 touchdowns in this game. He got him early too. Man, shit. With Jake Browning behind the center, I think this offense kind of still has some life to it. All the Jamar Chase shares that we had that we thought were going to be trash after this, I don't know, man. He's still got 150 yards and a touchdown.
It's funny you mentioned him. He was the one I wanted to shout out only because I am a Joe Mixon owner. And not to want to bore anybody with my fantasy team, but I feel like it's like that Voltron team that's starting to come together at the right time. And Joe Mixon's that one piece, man. He's been hanging out, chilling. He's been in my lineup every week, but he's been producing, as you mentioned, nothing crazy, but he's been. But all of a sudden now, starting to rev up. The engines are coming. I got Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith hanging out. The nice stack. Oh my God! Don't you get Sam Laporta at tight end, and I got Kincaid if I want to fuck around with him too. All right, y'all are done. Can't wait. All right. Let's get on to the receivers. And we got DK Metcalf all the way back from Thursday, 37.4. Remember that. Talked about that enough. Deebo Samuel, though, 35.8. Feel like Deebo feels like he's back. Nico Collins. Now, we mentioned the absence of Tank Dell now. 34.1 points. Wow. Seems like a nice CJ Stroud was like, all right, Tank. You're down. Here's the next man up is Nico. You the man. And he really threw it and fed him. CD Lamb, 32.6. Getting back on Thursday. Tyreek Hill, nothing more consistent right now in fantasy other than Christian McCaffrey. Man, what a dream team those two would be. But yeah, nothing more. San Francisco. No, Chrissy, you come here. Let's do it the other way. Nothing more exciting, quite frankly, than Tyreek. Well, that's my high horse. Anyone you want to shout out? You want to hear the receivers?
I agree. Tyreek is incredibly exciting, but I'll have to one up you on this one. There's nothing more exciting than watching Deebo Samuel get the football and take it 70 yards because that man literally. You see people part the Red Sea because they don't want to tackle him. Does that make sense?
No,
like
totally.
with Tyreek Hill, it's like you can't catch him. With Deebo Samuel, it's you don't want to tackle him. And it shows, like people literally get scared when he's coming at you. And I think that's the funniest shit because I'm just like, dude, this is your job. Go get this man. And everybody's just like, they get all timid when he's coming at you. And then you wait too long, and this man has deceptive speed himself. Like you'll see him go from like 0 to 100. I think he actually hit 22 miles an hour, which is what DK hit. I think DK hit a little bit faster, like 23, but he hit 22, right up there with DK, right up there with Tyreek Hill on these long runs. Man, to me personally, and there is some bias in it, I love it when I see Deebo Samuel in open field, because I know one of two situations going to happen. Either he is going to make everybody look scared, or he is going to put fear into somebody by smashing them. But either way, he's going to get that touchdown, and it's so exciting.
I'm really glad you brought this up, because I'm gonna I'm gonna actually piggyback off what you're saying. I don't know what it was. The NFL Network, ESPN, whatever, one of them. I'm watching, and they're talking about the top teams in the league, and they're like, okay, well, what's the team that really you think really scares you? And then of course they say the guy said the 49ers, and he says why? And he said because they can beat you in so many different ways. And I feel like Deebo Samuel is the perfect representation of that. Not only can you guys punch somebody in the mouth, but you can outwork them, outspeed them, out-cerebral them, all that kind of good stuff. So lots of great stuff from your team, no doubt about it. As much as I love America's team, I don't feel like we have that quite toughness that the 49ers bring to the table. So, again, really cool, good stuff, and I think Deebo is, like I said, a perfect representation of that for you guys. All right, so now that I've bloated you up a little bit, let's go to tight ends. Let's pull you up a little bit more, actually, because I have to thank you, because if I never draft tight ends high ever. People in my league, they slept on Kincaid and they slept on Sam Laporta. He was one of my last picks in my league. 29 points. Thank you very much. Evan Ingram, 23.2. Trey McBride, which, by the way, going to be, look at this young youth movement. And it's the position that we kept saying was dead. There's nothing here. All of a sudden, we're getting this youth movement all of a sudden. 22.9. Jake Ferguson, number 4 at 19.7. And good old Harrison Bryant, because it's Joe Flacco, 15.9. Anyone you want to shout out here?
Well, I just want to shout out, just piggyback off of your argument here. These are tight ends that aren't scoring like 10 points and stuff like that. They're scoring 20 points. Like, you look at McBride's sheet, he put together 8 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. That's great as a receiver.
Yep.
Like, let alone a tight end. Like, we usually hold these like low standards for tight ends. We're starting to get all these great tight ends coming in to where it's going to be like a scramble to get some of the best now. It's not going to just be like get Kelsey, get Kittle, and get Hawkinson, and then we're done for 7 to 8 rounds. These guys are going to be getting off the board like hotcakes now. Yeah, I mean, I love the tight end position right now. It's so. The youth movement is coming. We're seeing the new Kittle, the new Kelsey, and all these guys. One guy I do want to shout out, Evan Ingram, because I just don't think he ever gets his flowers, and it's well deserved. He's been Mr. Consistency. Finally got his touchdown this week. I called it in the Fantasy Jesus monologue. He got his touchdown this week, and it was huge. This guy's running down the sideline, pulling a Deebo Samuel, and he runs into the end zone, flying into the end zone, getting that score. That's another guy who got like 9 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. I just wanted to put that out there. The tight end movement is going to be something to really watch. And we've talked about this before. I have no problem now putting an extra tight end in the flex position, because that's where I'm at. I feel like I can get 20 points from Dalton Kincaid, and I am completely fine taking that risk, because I know that these guys are getting targeted almost at a double-digit clip a game.
Yep, they're getting fed. Like you mentioned, I didn't even mention Kincaid, but I mean McBride, all these guys, young. Even Schultz is pretty young for on the Texans. Lots of great stuff going on. So tight end movement is, I think we'll get away from that conversation of let's do away with the position, because now we're going to have a multitude of guys that we can start playing. And again, it just makes the game a little more fun anyway. And I wanted to, one other thing, whether, I have one audience member, I don't, whether I make a dime off of this, I don't want to say I don't care, because I do care. But what I will say is the lasting memories that have come from this podcast, because as Evan Ingram caught that touchdown, I swear on everything, all I could hear was, oh. I was just like, Fantasy Jesus called it.
He came down from the heavens.
I love it. So anyway, all right. Defensively, Chargers 17, Colts 17, Falcons 14, America's team 12, and Texans 10. Told you that Miami D coming up. Boy, better watch out. All right, listen, we had some leaders. Let's talk about some flops.
Can't you morons do anything right? They did their best.
Flip flops. Flip flops.
They did their best.
Flip flops.
Calm down, diddly 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 diddly.
I will also say this past weekend was very satisfying, because I don't know, I'll pull the clip if anyone gives a shit. No one probably cares, but after the Black Friday game, the Sunday game, I think it was the Sunday show that we talked about the game, and I brought up Jalen Phillips. I said, but you know why it don't matter? Because it's Genki time, and I'll be down if that man didn't show up. And even old boy in the homegrown prop bets called him out. I got to get some Thor stuff. I got to get something going for this guy, because man, he's got the it factor. We just got to get it out of him. All right, let's talk about some flops of the week. Not a whole ton. We had a lot of teams on buys, but a lot of guys showed out. Now, quarterback wise, C.J. Stroud 15th, Pat Mahomes 16th, Kyler Murray 17th. Here's one, Justin Herbert 23rd QB on the week. Anyone you want to shout out, Justin?
Yeah, I want to shout them all out. I'm not worried about Stroud. It was just a tougher game, but Patrick Mahomes, man.
All year.
I criticized one of my boys for getting after that freaking 49er game. He traded Dak Prescott, or he traded Patrick Mahomes for Dak Prescott, and there was some other stuff added on there. And I was just like, why are you trading away Patrick Mahomes, dude? That's a guaranteed guy right there. Man, am I eating crow? Because Dak Prescott's been on fire, and Patrick Mahomes, has anybody seen him in fantasy? Like, this guy is just not playing to the level we expect of him. Yeah, so I'm going to say that. I mean, obviously, I think it's a whole letdown. I still think the Chargers should fire their coach. I mean, this is a team in the Patriots that have been hung like 30 points by different teams. I think the Giants put 20-plus points on them, and you can't put more than 6. Come on, bro. What are we doing here? This team is just totally effed. They got away with a win, and they think that they can keep the coach for another round. Just get rid of him. Just get rid of him. If you can't put up more than 6 points with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler, you probably shouldn't be coaching in this league.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
totally.
it. I'm putting it out there.
I'm with you 100%. Look, Pat Mahomes, 8th on the year. I had to look it up because I'm like, this offense has struggled.
They have struggled indeed.
Number one. Thinking QB, man, no thing. Number disappointing at 26. Jahmyr Gibbs, 28th. Brian Robinson Jr., 29th. Breece Hall, 32nd. Devin Singletary, 33. Austin Eckler, 38th. Swift was hurt, 45th. Ramondre also was hurt with 47. Anyone you want to shout out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's once again, I'm going to go back to the Chargers. For some reason, Austin Eckler just seems so washed this year. And it's crazy. It's happened so fast. I mean, I feel for this guy. He literally is one of the greatest advocates for fantasy football. But, man, do you not want to have him this year because he has been a total bust for you this year. We talked about it at the Halloween break, who we thought were busts. And I remember saying Austin Eckler because of what he's been able to do and what he hasn't been able to do. He's one guy for me. I won't hold the injuries against Ramondre. Swift, I think that was more of a choice by the Eagles. It was a weird choice, but it was more of a choice by them. They decided they didn't want to run the ball. I don't know why, so I can't really hold that against him. But I do want to say real quick that Breece Hall has just been an absolute disappointment, period. And they said, Robert Saleh said that, he looks for the home run too much and he doesn't just go after it.
The dirty yard.
And in many ways, I'm like, you should encourage him to just go for the big runs because you're not getting offense any other way. Like what are we fucking talking about here? This whole organization has fallen apart in literally a couple weeks to where it's like, the stronghold was, solid, keeping everything together. And now it seems like he's slipping into the point where we're not going to see him next year. Why are we putting Dalvin Cook out there? Breece Hall should be taking every single fucking snap. And to be honest with you, he should be getting just about every single pass. You should be getting the ball in his hands, Garrett Wilson's hands, and nobody else. Because those are the only two guys that seem to know how to literally strap the team on their back and take it straight to the end zone. It's really maddening because you look at these guys and you're like, why aren't they producing? Oh, it's because they're not getting the touches.
And there's so many different ways you can attack that too. Why didn't they go after Joe Flacco? Now they're talking about going back to Zach Wilson. I mean, just all kind of craziness. Now, I will say, someone told y'all way back when, I am a Jets hater because I was talking shit, but it was true what I was saying remained true. I didn't think none of this made sense. Aaron Rodgers with these two running backs, they're not going to run the football. What? They're going to be in this pat. And then they never changed it when he got hurt. That don't make any damn sense. I didn't understand what was going on with this football team. Told you so.
Hate.
I know. I'm just hating. You're right. All right, let's go to receivers. Amante Brown, 26. Keenan Allen, 33rd. That Chargers team is just struggling. Jalen Waddle, 36th. Garrett Wilson, 43rd. Chris Godwin, 44th. Calvin Ridley, 45th. Jaden Reed, 50th. Josh Downs, 55th. Jahan Dotson, 56th. And Drake London, 83rd. Anyone you want to point out there?
I mean, the obvious one is Drake London, but I hate to say I told you so, but, I didn't really like this guy going in, period. I'll go Calvin Ridley once again, showing up as the disappointing guy. I mean, Christian Kirk goes out in the first quarter with a hamstring injury, and you can't take over. This offense still scored, but it was not behind you. Come on, man. We need you to step up. We need you to be the number one. You want to talk and talk and talk. You want your money and all this shit. Go out there and produce. Still, in my opinion, for what it's worth, Calvin Ridley has been a bust, even though he's had 2 great weeks these past couple weeks. But that's just all my opinion there. You don't have to accept it. And then, like I said, Keenan Allen was just a product of everything that was going on around him. Nobody was doing anything in that game. So I can't really hold that against him.
All right, so I got to go back to the running backs in a minute, but to back you up on Calvin Ridley, 2 great weeks does not make a great fantasy receiver, to your point. to your point on Austin Eckler, I forgot to mention it. I looked it up and then I forgot to even say it. 26th on the year. That's your fantasy ranking for Austin Eckler. So I know you spent some money on that ass, and it definitely did not come back for sure. Also, somebody I wanted to point out with the running backs, and I just started talking, I forgot. How about Devin Singletary, the shift that's going on with the Texans backfield? Just when you thought that Devin Singletary finally found a home somewhere, here comes Dameon Pierce saying, oh, you don't forgot about me? Oh, my goodness. So anyway, very strange situation going on there as far as your running back situation is concerned. I wish I could tell you one way or the other. To be quite frank, I don't even know what they're going to grow with this offense. So who knows? But I love their offense no matter what. I
want to say this just at the end of the day. Remember, it's a Kyle Shanahan based system there. You don't figure out the running back unless it's Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
Just don't
Very
try.
True. Very true. Very true. All right. So other than that, going to the receivers, Jalen Waddle's had a really strange year. On the field almost sometimes, I almost feel like he's trying too hard when it gets to come his time. I don't know what it is. But maybe they're just letting Tyreek eat, which is fine with me too. Whatever. It's working. Who gives a shit? Tight end, what's crazy? Nobody really underperformed except like Pat Freiermuth. That was the only one I could find. He was 22nd overall. Pretty much everyone fell in line to what you thought they were going to do this week. So no flop or your tight end. Crazy enough. All right. Well, this is a big week for some of us. We had some injuries to go over. Obviously, you got to maybe pick some people up. Let's hit the waiver wire.
Waiver wire.
All right, you have Trevor Lawrence. He just got hurt. Who you picking up?
Oh, Jake Browning all the way. You just gotta ride this hot hand right now. If he's by some weird reasoning, and I've had this happen because he actually beat me this week, he's not there, I would go with somebody like a Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew, he's been doing extremely well. He doesn't have too many highs, but he really doesn't have too many lows too. He kind of finds the little consistent pocket there. Consistency tends to be key in the playoffs. If you're looking for a high-end guy, I would shoot for Flacco. Flacco, he had it this week. I'll tell you what, he did not look bad. He looked like he could still sling the ball. This Browns offense was efficient. He had some rust on him, but I'll tell you what, still got the cannon. And oddly enough, I trust him more than Jameis. So I'm not going to say Jameis's name here.
That's not
Famous
odd
Jameis.
That's not odd in any way, sir. Because Jameis and Winston, quite frankly, that Saints offense is just meh. Hurting with receivers, I'm with you on Browning. I love that. I wanted to went ahead and pull their schedules up because that's really the telltale sign at this point. This week you can't go wrong with either Gardner Minshew or Browning because they're both facing each other. So either way, and both these secondaries obviously are very suspect. So I think I like both of these guys really this week. Going further, Colts have Steelers. At home, they go to Atlanta, and then are at home against the Raiders. So there's some decent matchups there. You got the Bengals got the Vikings after this week. They have the Vikings at home, Steelers in Pittsburgh, and at KC. So there's that. And the Browns with Mr. Flacco. Jaguars this week. We saw that secondary last night. Bears next week, Texans the following week now for your fantasy championship, which would be the Jets. So not so good there. But, again, depending on your roster, maybe take a couple of these guys and ride them out and then, do what you got to do, stream somebody for your championship, do what you got to do at this point, but play the matchups for sure. All right, let's look at the
I'll just some other guys. If Jordan Love's obviously out there, he's somebody to look at. Matt Stafford, he's someone else you might want to look at as well. But who knows if they're out there or not. All right, running back position. Tell me who you got.
Ezekiel Elliott looks really tempting right now with Ramondre Stevenson, most likely out for the Thursday game. Gotta love it. Zeke still looks like he's got a lot in the tank. In the limited, touches that he's had with New England, he's looked very explosive. That being said, they also signed JaMychal Hasty this week, who, if you remember last year, had a couple go-rounds with the Jaguars, did not look half bad. Another guy I would like to highlight is the Bears running back Roschon Johnson. I liked what they were doing with him in the passing game. I think that's a guy right there who could be a guy on the receiving end while Khalil Herbert takes a lot of the rushing end. So if you're in a PPR, I'd probably go out and see if I can grab him. Also, Deonta Foreman is coming back. If you really want to enamor yourself in the mess that is the Bears running back room, be my guest. But if you're asking me, I'd go with Roschon and PPR, and anybody else, I'd say, F you, stay on the waiver wire.
Well, it almost became that big Tajay Spears week where, if Derrick Henry didn't go, where it was going to be that big pickup to go around. But turned out, like I said, Derrick Henry is okay. How about that guy last night? Is it Chris Brown or Chase Brown? I just put C Brown. Is it Chris Brown, the guy? Chase. He looked good. He had some speed on him. So he's somebody else. If you're a Joe Mixon owner, maybe somebody to handcuff as you get into this playoff stretch. Antonio Gibson, we mentioned earlier. If that turns out, that's why I wanted to ask Doc what they're planning on doing. MRI might mean something a little more serious. That's why I was asking him that. So if that is the case, obviously they're on a bye this week, but you got the Rams. The Jets are susceptible to the run. That's the following week. And you do got the 49ers after that, so you might be a little trouble there. But Antonio Gibson will bring you that reception part of it. So in PPR, he's money because he will definitely get the dump off passes. And a lot of these game scripts for the Commanders, unfortunately for them, they're going to be down. As far as the Patriots go, talking about Zeke, you got the Steelers this week. You got the Chiefs the following week. And Broncos. So if Ramondre's out, then you got the Broncos later on. So that's a nice matchup. And the Bills after that. We talked about that a lot on your fantasy championship, and we talked about a lot on the show. Very susceptible to the run. So like those options as well. All right, receiver-wise, who you got?
Man, receiver is kind of where it kind of dwindles for me because there's not really too many great options left out there. I mean, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, there's that kid Parker Washington who caught the touchdown yesterday for the Jaguars. If you could still find somebody like an Odell Beckham Jr. out there, I would totally grab him because he's been having some pretty nice weeks. Another guy to look at is Noah Brown. They're going to need some way to fix the Tank Dell problem there. Noah Brown could definitely be that. He's already subbed in and had a couple 150-yard games, so he can ball. One guy I'll throw out there that I think is kind of coming up is Trey Palmer, and that's kind of with the whole, Chris Godwin is not showing up, so Trey Palmer is figuring it out, and he's getting in the rotation a little bit more. I know my last week guy was Dontavian Wicks. He didn't necessarily have his breakout week, but, he's still there, and, hopefully with, maybe a little bit of injury time to Christian Watson, he can continue to figure it out. But, he's still getting, 4 targets a game, so there's a lot of options out there, not a lot of good options, in my opinion. Nobody who's going to be straight up consistent for you. But, this is where you kind of pick matchup to matchup. You look at the injury reports. You kind of figure out, can this guy figure into the lineup? And if he can, maybe you go out and get him. Oh, one last guy I want to shout out. My boy, Alec Pierce. Been waiting for this man to go for over 100 yards all season long. I endorsed him at the beginning of the year, and he finally did it. Got himself a touchdown as well. I don't think he's going to be repeating it a lot, but, I just wanted to make that shout out there because he is on the waiver wire as well.
He finally did it. Zay Jones.
Finally!
If Zay Jones is out there, obviously the injury of Christian Kirk, if he happens to be out there on your waiver wire, make sure you snag him up. Like to Noah Brown. One guy I think you miss, he brought Joe Flacco up. How about the day Elijah Moore had with Joe Flacco? If he's out there on that waiver wire, he's definitely worth a risk, if you will, to take. I don't know if he's even a risk, but Joe Flacco is finding him early and often with their injury to Amari Cooper. Again, did I even bring that up to Doc? I don't think I did. So that's somebody else that we need to see how long he's going to be out for. Jonathan Mingo actually has been stepping up as they've been targeted a lot in this offense, seeing the decline, I guess, if you will, of Adam Thielen and the rise of him. Jalen Hyatt's been mentioned a few times. Curtis Samuel, and this offense are on a bye this week, but if Terry McLaurin's getting no targets and catches, at least Curtis Samuel is getting something. Let's go to the tight ends, and I don't know is there anything? Did you see anything out there? Because I got like 2 names, and usually I got 4 or 5.
Yeah, I like Harrison Bryant. He obviously stepped it up. I don't know if David Njoku just went missing or something like that, but Harrison Bryant, former Mackey Award winner, is a hell of a tight end in college. Thought he had potential in the NFL. Still think he does, and he showed out. So let's hope it's not a one-game thing. And I'll say one more guy, Isaiah Likely. And I doubt he's on your waiver wire, but check anyways, because there was the whole bye thing that happened right after the Mark Andrews injury. So maybe he's out there. If he's out there, definitely worth a look. He looked pretty damn athletic in his one performance this year as a starter. And I think they could try and get him going in the end zone more often down the stretch. So I like those 2 guys.
Chig looked like, I put Chig down there. It looked like he was, Will Levis is finding him a little bit. And I also put Brevin Jordan down. If Dalton Schultz goes down for any amount of time, it looked like CJ Stroud was finding Brevin Jordan a little bit. So maybe somebody you might want to look at, depending, of course, on what the situation is with Dalton Schultz. Some streaming D options. Texans, again, you guys know if you've been following this show, follow that Jets offense around. That Houston D will eat all day. They've actually been stepping up as well. So it's kind of good. You got a youthful defense that's starting to step up a little bit in this offense that continues to struggle. Saints versus the Carolina Panthers. Vikings at the Raiders, and Packers at the Giants, which, by the way, I did want to mention, if you're in your fantasy leagues and, you're like me and got blessed and you got a bye week and you're chilling, you're waiting for your matchup, start looking for your matchup. Don't wait. Don't wait till next week. Start looking at who those defenses are playing, what's going on for your matchup. Beat that waiver wire before it gets into next week, because your opponent right now, he's worried about what's going on this week. He ain't worried about you next week. Make sure you start playing in ahead. All right, let's get it on Thursday night. I'm so excited for this football game. Breaking it on down for this exciting matchup in the AFC. Remember, this game used to be like the AFC championship almost all the time.
Yeah.
Patriots at the Steelers. It's 38 degrees, partly cloudy, winds 8 miles an hour. Patriots lead the series overall 18-16. Patriots have won 6 out of the last 7, and including the last time was in 2022, 17-14 they won. The line on the game is Steelers by 6. Over under is 30.5. By the fantasy numbers, Patriots against fantasy QBs are 7th, running backs 15th, receivers 22nd, tight ends they are 3rd. Steelers are 5th against fantasy QBs, 24th against running backs, 18th against receivers, and 10th against tight ends. So you got Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky against 2 defenses that are top 10, 1 top 5 against fantasy QBs. What do you label this game, Justin?
This is the Honey, do you want to go to a movie game? Oh man, this is not even the I want to go grab a beer game. Do you need one too, buddy? Because you still got to go back to the couch. Oh
So true.
man, this is up there with the. I mean, I guess this is becoming the standard for Thursday night games. They're stinkers. Like whenever you get something like a Dallas and Seattle, you're like, oh man, honey, we're watching football tonight. Like, let's fucking go. But this one, oh man, I think I might go check out like whatever is going on now in movie theaters. But I'll keep this real quick. Play the Pittsburgh defense. Fuck all the nonsense at quarterback. Go ahead and play Najee Harris. Play Jalen Warren because they've been okay for you. I want none of the wide receivers. I don't want Pickens. I don't want Johnson, Devontae Parker. Bleh. Juju Smith-Schuster. Double bleh. I know we just endorsed Ezekiel Elliott on waiver wires. I mean, if you're in that bad of a pinch, I don't have a problem with it. But we got to define the pinch on this one.
Yeah, he's flexible.
Yeah, we got to define the pinch worthy. Like, did you just have a bunch of injuries happen? Because if that, fine. But if you got somebody on there that's got upside, you take him all day long and you leave Zeke on that bench. You hear me? But overall in this game, I don't know about you. I think this is a game where the matinee should be just two coaches and not even a player. You know what I mean? Like, it should just be Belichick, Tomlin, and not yada yada and yada yada over here. This is gonna be a meeting of the minds, and it'll probably end up being somewhere along the lines of 9-6. And my pick is the Steelers.
Well, as usual, we'll pay homage to the judge first, and let's hammer that home. We're all going to go Steelers on that one. Although I don't know, again, if that's, this game is not all, I don't think is like in the books for the Steelers with the Patriots. They do defensively bring it. I could very well see a, I think what really will determine the game is a defensive touchdown by either one of these teams, which you mentioned play Steelers D. I would also play Patriots D. I think both these defenses are going to play well. This is when you'll see that type of game. If you like that 90s football, that's what you're in for that matchup, quite frankly. I'm not sure about Najee, to be honest with you. I think he's just right in line with Zeke. They're all flex plays for me. There's nothing about this matchup I like. I hate playing fantasy players on Thursday, and I would hate it even more if I had to play from either one of these two squads. I would literally feel like death is about to happen. No, thank you on that one. So, again, could it be a good defensive matchup? Maybe there's some defense. But again, I thought last night was just going to be a rollover, and look what we got. So you never know sometimes. And instead of going out to the movies, I always get bombarded at Christmas time. Someone really loves the Hallmark movies, and I cannot stand to watch any of them because they are the same plot. It is the same thing. And then on 90% of them, it's like it's the girl cheats on her husband or her boyfriend, and there's this newfound love, and I'm like, this is what you fucking watch at this is Christmas shit. You're into this shit? Like this? Somebody tell me something here. What the fuck? That's Christmas? Oh, I fell out of love with my husband, and now I'm at this new place, this new town where I happen to work at the shop, at the food shop, and there's this young guy there. And we were under the mistletoe the other day.
It's the newly divorced woman who goes back home and rekindles the high school love. Yeah. You're just like, how did we not make this work the first time?
Oh, don't even get me started. I start getting on that. My son actually, he joins me in, and she's like, "Oh, Jeff, me too." Yeah, I can't do the Hallmarks. But anyway, I might do the Hallmark movie maybe Thursday. I might surprise her. Be like, hey, babe, you want to watch a chick flick? All right, well,
The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. That's a classic in our household. Only because I really like that one.
Yeah, I know. Well, shit, we're gonna go Christmas movie. I mean, I can pick some, but just for her, we'll go the Hallmark route, and I can, we'll celebrate somebody cheating on someone and going into a new town, and now they're in love, and it's Christmas and whatever. All righty, well. Sounds like a sophisticated movie. I don't know if it's sophisticated enough for Mr. Mallard, but we're about to find out because he's going to bring us his sophistication station.
Welcome to Sophistication Station. Welcome into another stop on Sophistication Station. I'm Angelo Duke, aka Mr. Mallard, and things are getting hairy as the NFL season gets into its home stretch here. Heading into the fantasy playoffs, there is a lot of injuries, so let's get into it. Ezekiel Elliott is the guy that you can pick up, probably, unless some guys may have been stashing him over the last few weeks. But with Ramondre Stevenson looking to have been diagnosed with an ankle sprain, possibly a high ankle sprain, he should miss at least a week or two. Ezekiel Elliott has been running hard for what has been an awful Patriots offense, but he's getting the carries, he's getting catches out of the backfield as well for whatever that's worth. He could be a serviceable flex option. There could be other better options on your team, but Ezekiel Elliott could be an all-right dart throw in a pinch. And then Tanner Hudson on the Cincinnati Bengals. He's Browning's seems to be his favorite option outside of Jamar Chase, but Hudson has looked fast for the position. He's looked consistent and reliable for Browning. So Tanner Hudson seems to be a chain mover for the Bengals. So go pick him up at the tight end position. And then a why not kind of pickup is Gardner Minshew, getting double-digit points, above 15 points the last 2 weeks since their bye week. Gardner Minshew seems to be doing just enough for the Colts to get them pumped with some adrenaline right now. So Gardner Minshew could be a serviceable streamer for you. He also has a somewhat favorable schedule down the stretch here, so he could be a last-minute plug-in if you do have an injury that you just need to fill. And then last but not least, Elijah Moore finally starting to show some life in that Browns offense. Obviously, the quarterback situation is sketchy there, to say the least, but Elijah Moore is a guy who can play at all levels of the field in that offense, so look for Elijah Moore to possibly be much more involved. Once again, I'm Angela Duke, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard. Stay classy, friends.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. Join us back on Friday. We're going to break down the big slate for this weekend. God, there's some big games this week. I like how, actually, I kind of like the NFL start us out slow with Patriots and Steelers because there's some big ones coming on this weekend. I cannot wait. Good luck to you this week. We'll get you all prepped on Friday, and then don't forget to wake up with us on Sunday morning. We appreciate you, and we are out.